So you guys have sent us a ton of stuff lately about studying, right?
Yeah.
Being organized, learning effectively, that kind of thing. And honestly, it's been really fascinating to dive into.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of interesting stuff in there.
And what we're going to do today is kind of like pull out the most interesting parts, right?
Hmm.
See if we can help everyone listening learn a bit smarter, not just harder.
For sure. Like, work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because, well, one thing that keeps popping up in what you sent is the journal notebook.
The good old-fashioned notebook.
Yeah, like actually putting pen to paper.
Hmm.
And a lot of the examples you guys sent actually came from Lestallion stuff.
Oh, Lestallion, they make some really nice notebooks.
Right, they do. They have this one, the Journal Notebook for Spiritual Growth.
Okay, interesting. So more like personal reflection kind of thing.
Yeah, you'd think so, right? But see, we've looked at Lestallion before, and their design, it's always so well thought out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. They really do pay attention to detail.
And it's those details that got me thinking, like, a lot of these features would be so useful for studying, too, not just, personal stuff.
Oh, totally. It's like the little things that can actually make a huge difference. Like
Wow.
take the paper they use, it's so smooth, that ivory color, 120 GSM. Like it's actually a joy to write on.
You're making me think of this friend I had back in college. He was always complaining about, like, how his fountain pens would bleed through the cheap paper in his notebooks.
Yeah, totally. It's the worst. You're trying to take good notes and it's just a mess.
Yeah, and he was so picky about his pens. He loved those fountain pens. But this paper, this Lestallion paper, it solves that problem completely. Like, no bleed through.
And their covers, right. I mean, whether you go for soft cover or hard cover, that faux leather, it's going to last forever.
Durability is key, especially if you're going to be using it all the time, right?
Exactly. You want a notebook that can keep up with you.
Yeah.
And honestly, something as simple as numbered pages, it's like, why don't all notebooks have that?
Right. It's such a basic thing, but it makes such a difference for organization.
Game changer.
Oh, and this is the cool part. They have all these different options. Like, depending on the specific Lestallion journal, you might get dashed lined pages, dot grid, or even blank pages.
Oh, I love that. So like something for everyone, no matter how you like to study.
Exactly. Like, if you're more into visual stuff, maybe you go for the dot grid, more of a linear note taker. Dashed lined pages all the way.
And some of them even have a built-in table of contents.
And that back pocket, don't forget about that.
Oh, yeah, that's clutch. Perfect for those random handouts or little notes.
Keeps everything together. And the binding, the way it lays flat, man, for those long study sessions, it's a lifesaver.
It really does make a difference. So we've talked about Lestallion journals in the context of personal reflection, but I'm curious, have you ever thought about how these features could be really beneficial for studying too? It's like, maybe there's a connection there that we don't always think about.
It's funny, right? You have a tool designed for, like, mindfulness and personal growth, and then you realize, wait a minute, these qualities, this intentionality, it translates perfectly to studying.
It's so true.
Like, the good materials, the thought-out layout, they actually help create a really effective study companion.
I'm thinking of my cousin Emily. She was doing her master's, and she was drowning in research papers. I mean, it was like notes everywhere, digital, paper, you name it, total chaos. And then she got herself one of those Lestallion journals, the dashed line one, and she told me just the act of writing things down by hand, it helped her organize her thoughts. Like it made everything clear in her head.
Plus, with those dashed lines, it provides a little bit of structure without being too restrictive.
Right. And she used the numbered pages to create like a running index of all her research themes.
Oh, smart move.
Yeah, it made it so much easier for her to connect different ideas later on.
Yeah.
She said it brought a sense of calm to what was a very stressful process.
It's interesting because there's actually research on this. Like, writing by hand, it can actually improve memory and comprehension for a lot of people. It's like it forces you to slow down, engage with the information more actively than just typing it out.
So it's not just about being neat and organized. It's actually about how our brains process information.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the physical act of writing. But how about the journal itself? Like having this dedicated space with all these specific features, how does that actually help you study better?
Well, think of it this way. When you're using one journal consistently for a specific course, you're creating this physical record of your learning journey.
I like that. A learning journey.
Right. It allows you to go back, revisit concepts, see how your understanding has evolved, and even see the connections between different ideas. And the numbered pages, they become your anchor. You can easily find what you need when you need it.
Like building a map of your knowledge.
Exactly.
And speaking of Lestallion's features, let's talk about that thick paper again, that 120 GSM.
Seriously, that paper is a game changer.
The source material really emphasizes how important this is, especially if you like to use different pens.
Oh, for sure. I used to be all about the gel pens, but now I've been getting into fountain pens. And let me tell you, some notebooks, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah. The bleed through, the feathering, it's like, why even bother taking notes at that point?
Right. But this thick paper, it just handles it all. Your notes stay clean, readable. It makes a huge difference.
It's like it removes a barrier to learning. You're not distracted by messy ink. You can actually focus on the content.
And let's not forget about those numbered pages. I know we've mentioned them, but I really want to emphasize how crucial they are for a study journal.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me more about that. Why are they so essential?
Organization and retrieval. Imagine, weeks later you're trying to find a specific note and your notebook has no page numbers. Talk about a nightmare.
Trying to find a needle in a haystack?
Exactly. But with numbered pages, you can create an index, a table of contents. It's like having a roadmap to your notes, especially when you have, exams coming up or you're trying to pull together information from a bunch of different sources. It just makes everything so much easier.
It turns your notebook into an actual tool, not just a collection of random notes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And something else I noticed, Lestallion offers both softcover and hardcover options. Seems like they really put some thought into what students actually need.
It's smart, right? Like, if you're mostly studying at home, maybe you want that sturdy hardcover.
Yeah, like a textbook almost, built to last.
But if you're carrying your notebook around all day, going from class to class, maybe the softcover is more your style.
Lighter, more flexible, fits in your bag easier.
Exactly. It's about having options, recognizing that everyone studies differently in different environments.
And then you have different page styles, dashed lines, dot grid, blank pages. Like, that's pretty versatile.
You can really customize your notebook to fit the subject you're studying.
Totally. Linear notes for history, maybe some diagrams for biology, or just like free-flowing brainstorming for a creative writing class. There's a page style for everything.
What I find fascinating is how those different layouts can actually support different ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Like lined pages, they naturally guide you towards more structured writing, which is perfect for traditional note-taking. Dot grid, it gives you a framework for visuals like graphs and mind maps, but it's not as rigid as lines. And then blank pages, well, that's just pure freedom.
Yeah, like a blank canvas.
Exactly.
The source material also talks about common study challenges, like, lack of structure, feeling disorganized. And it's clear how these features we've been talking about, like numbered pages, a table of contents, even the back pocket, they all address those issues.
They're not just there to look pretty, they have a purpose.
Totally. It's functional design.
Like being able to create a table of contents because you have numbered pages, it gives you this overview of your notes. You can navigate them strategically. The back pocket, it's a place to keep all those loose papers that always seem to get lost. And suddenly you have this organized system instead of a pile of chaos.
It makes me think of a friend of the family, Mark. He went back to school for graphic design, and he was having a hard time keeping track of everything, like his sketches, his written notes, all his ideas. It was all over the place.
Yeah, I can see how that would be tough.
He decided to try one of the Lestallion journals, the dot grid one. And he was telling me the dot grid was perfect for him because he could do his sketches and layouts with precision, but he still had the flexibility to write notes as well.
It's like finding that sweet spot between structure and freedom.
Exactly. And of course, he loved the numbered pages. He said it made it so much easier to reference specific design ideas during critiques. Like, he could actually find what he was looking for.
It's those little things that make such a difference, right?
Absolutely. So the source material also gives some really practical tips for using a journal effectively, like having a clear purpose for each journal you start.
Right. Like, what's this journal for? Is it for this class, for this project, for brainstorming? Having that clear intention from the start can make a big difference.
And then choosing the right format, which, Lestallion has plenty of options.
And actually using those layout options to your advantage, like dot grid for mind maps, line pages for traditional notes, that sort of thing.
It's about using the journal as a tool, not just a notebook.
And they talk about the importance of creating an index, which, again, goes back to those numbered pages. Like, you can actually turn your notes into a searchable database.
Makes a lot of sense.
And don't be afraid to mix things up either, like bullet points, mind maps, diagrams, whatever works for you.
And even like scheduling your study sessions within the journal.
That's a good idea. Keeps you accountable.
And they emphasize the importance of regular reflection, like taking some time at the end of a study session or the end of the week to summarize key takeaways. Having it all in one place, it makes it much more likely that you'll actually do it.
And that reflection, that's where the real learning happens, right? It's not just about absorbing information, it's about processing it, making it your own.
So it seems like there's a lot to be said for using a high-quality journal for studying, especially one that's as well-designed as the ones Lestallion makes.
Totally agree. It's like the quality paper, it helps you focus. The numbered pages, they provide structure. The different cover and ruling options, they let you personalize it. The binding makes it easy to use. Even the little things like the back pocket, they contribute to this overall sense of like order and efficiency.
It's like having a trusted companion on your learning
I
journey.
love that.
So for all of you listening who are always looking for ways to learn better, maybe it's time to consider adding a journal to your study routine.
You know, it's funny, we live in this digital world, but there's something about these analog tools that just works.
Totally. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective.
It makes you wonder, right? What other analog tools are out there that we've overlooked? What other surprisingly effective solutions might be hiding in plain sight?
It's a good question. Something to think about. For now, we encourage you to explore the idea of using a journal for your studies. And hey, maybe check out Lestallion's journals. Based on what we've discussed today, they seem like a great place to start.
Definitely worth a look.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.